There is a center within us through which all the threads of the universe are drawn. Oh, good evening. My name is George Russell, and I was just thinking out loud to myself that that would be as good a place as any to start our little talk this evening, perhaps even end it. There is a center within us through which all the threads of the universe are drawn. Yes. Now, where is that key? I have memorized much of my work by heart, but here I have written the testimonial telling how I, then an ordinary boy in Armagh, perhaps 14 or 15 years old, how I incarnated a myth, A.E., hence George A.E. Russell. I became much more than an ordinary mortal. I became Lou, Mananon, an avatar, an energy wave. I became the pilgrim of eternity, a mystic. Yes, a mystic, the pilgrim of eternity, the beginning of the maturation of the psyche from a mystic into a seer, and then hopefully into a sage. I whirl like the philosopher that rotates himself out of existence, as my friend James Stevens said. Whirl. Whirling words. How can you tell anybody how to incarnate their own unique mystic? They have to sweat for it. Concentration, meditation. 12 years I sweated for it after the pilgrim of eternity announced himself as the true center of my identity. Thread soul. You were born immortal, but you have to discover how to incarnate a myth. How did I put it in the candle of vision? I began to be astonished with myself. For walking along country roads, intense and passionate imaginations of another world, of an interior nature, began to overpower me. There are windows in the soul through which can be seen images created not by human, but by the divine imagination. There are windows in the soul through which can be seen images created not by human, but by the divine imagination. Ah, yes, the key. We all want a key. I cast my mind back to that time when I was an ordinary boy in Armagh. Retrospective meditation. What did I say? I seemed alone with immensity, and then there came at last that melting of the divine darkness into the life within me for which I prayed. I was not outcast. Still, though by a thread fine as that by which a spider hangs from the rafters, my being was suspended from the habitations of eternity. When I was a boy, I seemed alone with immensity. But then there came at last a melting of the divine darkness into the life within me for which I prayed. I was not outcast. Still, though by a thread fine as that by which a spider hangs from the rafters, my being was extended from the habitations of eternity. The boy who existed before was still there, but he was an alien. A much more ancient self than the boy had surfaced and revealed its presence. The boy hid himself when this pilgrim of eternity, like a spiritual sun dawning, took up his abode in the dwelling of the psyche. And the basic ignorance and taint and pollution of the human spirit is the loss of the divine, lost through choice, free choice. Hellfire and brimstone have terrorized us, maimed us. We have not evolved up from material and animals. We have descended from spirit and the stars. We can, of course, choose to exist at the level of animals, and we have done so, possessed by instinct and distraction. The divine is lost by men with faces internalizing the rat, the hog, the goat. Such faces have completed this pollution, metamorphosed. How did I say it? A man is slowly transformed into whatever he thinks of intently. A man is slowly transformed into whatever he thinks of intently. Yes, maimed mystics all around me. What was my method? Let's see what I said. I tried to light the candle on my forehead. Why? To peer into every darkness in the belief that the external universe of nature had no more exquisite architecture than the internal universe of being. Yes, I believe of nature that it is a manifestation of deity. Because we are partakers in the divine nature, all we see has affinity with us, and though now we are as children who look upon letters before they have learned to read, to the illumined spirit, its own being is clearly manifested in the universe, even as I recognize my thought in the words I write. My method was to try and light a candle on my forehead, to peer into every darkness in the belief that the external universe of nature had no more exquisite architecture than the internal universe of being. Yes, I believe of nature that it is a manifestation of the divine. And because we are partakers in divine nature, all that we see, everything that we see, has affinity with us. And for those of us who are just starting out on this spiritual journey, we are like children who look upon letters before they have learned to read. They mean nothing. But to the illumined spirit, their own self is clearly manifested in the universe, just as my thoughts are clear in the words that I write. Everything in nature has intellectual significance and is relayed as utterance to the thought out of which the universe was born. Everything in nature has divine, has what did I say? Intellectual significance, and is related as utterance to the thought out of which the universe was born. And we, whose minds are made in its image, made in the image of the universe, we, the microcosm of the macrocosm, have within ourselves the key to unlock the meaning of that utterance. Have within ourselves the key to unlock the meaning of that utterance. Here is the key. The spirit within every human being is identical with God. Yes, the golden age is all around us. The spirit within every human being is identical with God. Yes, the golden age, nature, is all around us. How did I put it in poetry? What miracle was it that made this grey Rathgar seem holy earth, a leaping place from star to star. What spirit was it that made this grey Rathgar seem holy earth, a leaping place from star to star? The supreme question, I told that impudent imp, James Joyce, when he knocked on my door late one night. The supreme question about a work of art is, out of how deep a life does it spring? This is what I said to young Joyce. The supreme question about a work of art is, out of how deep a life does it spring? He noted my words down and asked me for a loan. I escaped without too much calumny. His character, Stephen Dedalus, reminds him, A-E-I-O-U. Did I escape? No. He avenged himself upon me in that same chapter of Ulysses, the library scene, when he depicted me in my homespun tweeds with an accent beyond boyne water. The imp. It is a novel sweating with the fever of Mephistopheles to make art at the price of a soul. Ulysses is a novel sweating with the fever of Mephistopheles to make art at the price of a soul. Yet such fever is a mistake. Mephistopheles is not a spirit you should allow into your artist's soul. Rather, you should allow in that divine mind whose signature is on everything and whose whole majesty is present in the least thing in nature. Mephistopheles is not a spirit you should allow into your artist's soul. What you should allow in is the divine mind, whose signature is on everything and whose whole majesty is present in the least thing of nature. It is as close to us as a flower in a field. Mine was no ironic epiphany, as Joyce misuses the word epiphany. Mine was a blazing up of the vast in me. I began to feel, after long efforts at concentration and mastery of the will, I began to feel the beginning of an awakening of the fires. Once, at the apex of intensest meditation, I awoke that fire in myself of which the ancients have written, and it ran up through me like lightning along the spinal cord, and my body rocked with the power of it, and I seemed to myself to be standing in a fountain of flame, and there were fiery flames as of wings about my head, and a musical sound not unlike cymbals clashing with every pulsation. And if I had remembered the ancient wisdom, I might have opened that eye which searches infinitude. If I had remembered that ancient wisdom, I might have opened that eye which searches infinitude. We have so lost vital contact with the divine powers that they have become for most merely names for murky abstractions. And those who only read do not know that the mighty mother is the earth on which they tread and whose substance they call common clay, or that the Paraclete, the Holy Spirit, is the strength of our being, the power that clings atom to atom and links earth to heaven, or that the Christos is the magician of the beautiful. And it is not only the architect of the God world, but is that within us which sees beauty, creates beauty, and is verily, truly, it is wisdom in us and is our deepest self. When we turn from books to divine nature, we begin to understand the ancient wisdom. And it is no longer a distraction. For the Great Spirit, whose home is in the vast, becomes for us a moving glamour in the heavens, a dropping tenderness at twilight, a visionary light in the hills, a voice in the heart. And the old enchantment lingers in the honey heart of earth. It's a lonely road through boglands to the lake at Carramore. And the sleeper there lies dreaming where the waters lap the shore. Though the moth wings of the twilight in their purples are unfurled, his sleep is filled with music by the masters of the world. There's a hand as white as silver that is fondling with his hair. There are glimmering feet of sunshine that are dancing by him there. And half-open lips of fairy that were dyed a fairy red in their revels where the hazel tree its holy clusters shed. Come away, the red lips whisper. All the world is weary now. It's the twilight of the ages, and it's time to quit the plough. Oh, the very sunlight's weary ere it lightens up the dew, and its gold is changed and faded before it falls to you. Though our Colleen's heart be tender, a tenderer heart is near. What's the starlight in her glances when the stars are shining clear? Who would kiss the fading shadow when the flower face glows above? 'Tis the beauty of all beauty that is calling for your love. Oh, the great gates of the mountain have opened once again, and the sound of song and dancing falls upon the ears of men. And the land of youth lies gleaming, flushed with rainbow light and mirth, and the old enchantment lingers in the honey heart of earth. Ah, here is the key. But who needs the key when the words are written on the heart? Keys, books, words, whirling words around a stillness that bridges time and eternity. Be still, be healed. Simply realize there is a center within us through which all the threads of the universe are drawn. Thank you.